BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online. The game starts here.
And the Los Angeles Dodgers have just wrapped up their series in Houston, losing 2 of 3 games. However, this past week they had a pretty decent, series of games. They took a series against the division rival San Francisco Giants, which we kind of talked about over the most recent Bleed Los Live. And then going into Houston, a very, hot team, one of the best teams in baseball from, pretty much June on. They've had like the third best record in all of baseball in that time frame as well, just underneath, I believe, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Metropolitans. They are kind of playing some really good baseball in the National League right now as well. The Dodgers, in terms of that Houston series, they could have probably gotten away with 2 wins there, but we obviously saw what happened in Game 2 and Game 1 with Gavin Stone not being able to give them that first half success. But joining us today, it's been a while since he's stopped by on the Bleed Los podcast, and that is Dodgers beat writer Steve Webb. So, Steve, it's great to have you on here, especially this episode will be dropping on the eve of the 2024 trade deadline. But how you doing?
Doing good. Hola, Sagangrones, as they say around here.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about,
Yeah.
especially in this Houston series. But I kind of want to go back a little bit just because I want to get your thoughts on the Giants series because I think we saw a lot. We saw 2 starters come back from the injured list and join a starting rotation that desperately needed reinforcements. And we also got to see the 2024 season of Clayton Kershaw, a guy who, once they even re-signed in the offseason, I know I had my doubts if he would even throw a pitch this season. Not only did he throw a pitch, he throws 4 solid innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Going off of Kershaw's start, what did you see from the lefty? Were you surprised of how he pitched, and what are your thoughts on how his outlook for the rest of the season?
Well, first I was a little surprised that they brought him back as quickly as they did, but then not too surprised because I know Kershaw hates rehab starts, and he doesn't like to pitch at Oklahoma. He doesn't like to go to Rancho Cucamonga. He just doesn't like it. So I could see this. To me, was sort of like a rehab start in a way, in that he wasn't fully built up. He wasn't at 100% or close to it. But I think I liked. I mean, the way he was landing that curveball was pretty impressive for such a long layoff. Fastball needed some work. I'm a little concerned about how he's going to work that lower velo fastball into his repertoire. He's not used to pitching at that velocity, so he's got to really sort of rethink his pitching strategy going forward. But I mean, there's a lot to like in that start, and I'm glad to see him back on the mound. And what did he get? 6 strikeouts, you said? That was, and a lot of swing and miss too. He had a lot of people totally fooled. So if we can get that out of him, and you kind of think, well, what are they going to do when they get Bueller's kind of working his way back as well? Could they do some sort of piggyback situation with those two? It's an interesting dilemma that they'll find themselves in when they get all their arms back. And we're still waiting on Yamamoto, so I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. But as far as Kershaw goes, I think we were really in a kind of didn't know what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think pleasantly surprised is like a good way to put it, just because not many fans thought he was going to be back or even back this early, especially pitching at Dodger Stadium during a day game. I think that helps him out to be pitching at his home ballpark. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think because he only made 3 rehab starts and then 1 simulated game at Dodger Stadium, I believe, during the break, and or just before the break. And he even mentioned after his last rehab outing, he said, I'm not fully brought up, 100%, like able up even throwing 100 pitches yet. His deepest start was only in the fourth inning, his last rehab start, and that was the first time he's even pitched in the fourth inning, pretty much since last October, where he didn't even do it then either. So
Right.
I think he looked good enough for like being his first start. 6 strikeouts. He had the swing and stuff going. His fastball, I think we noticed that last year. He's not getting the velocity back. You don't get stuff back, especially when you're creeping into your middle to late 30s. But I think the way he is that he's now a traditional pitcher. Not saying that he wasn't that before, but now he's knowing how to use pitch these hitters backwards. I know he's worked on a changeup the past, I think, 2 or 3 years. That could help him tremendously. It will be interesting to see how he incorporates his fastball because it seems like he'll have it in the first couple innings where he's touching around 91, 92 miles per hour. But then as the game goes on, and we definitely saw it in this start, it started dropping below 90. And it happened in that rehab start too, where once he got to the fourth inning, it dropped all the way down to 87, 88 miles per hour, which at the big league level, you're not really going to get by with that,
Right.
unfortunately.
Need some tips from Ryan Yarbrough, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm pleasantly surprised, like you said. I'm curious to see, do you see Kershaw being a big part of the rotation in October? Because I feel like that's the big question everybody has in their mind right now because, there's still the innings stuff with Glass now, and then the health concerns, and then Yamamoto, who's still on the shelf. Bobby Miller's in, AAA. Walker Buehler's trying to work his way back up, and then Gavin Stone is logically your number 2 or 3 starter. But we're starting to see, I think in like 3 or 4 of his last starts, he's given up 4 or more runs, which compared to that June and May run was unheard of. Is Kershaw going to be an anchor in that rotation come October?
I wouldn't say anchor. I see him maybe as a third or fourth starter. If they're up like 3-1, they would start him in game 5, that kind of thing. I in a short series, I don't think I would use him if they end up in a 3-gamer or something for if San Diego happens to catch him and they end up in a wild card and have to do a 3-game series. I would not use him in that kind of a series. But I would use him as a third or fourth starter. Depending on how he pitches the rest of the way, of course. He might blow us all away and, get it all figured out and be sitting at like a 2.5 ERA. I wouldn't put it past him. So we'll see. I would say right now you'd have to say that Glass now would be your game 1 starter. That's sort of been what we have expected all year. Your game 2 starter is kind of up for grabs, I would say. You'd like it to be Yamamoto, but where is he and how is he coming along? And will he be the Yamamoto we had in the first 2 months of the season? Because it's been a while. So he's basically, starting from scratch. So we'll see. You'd like it to be Yamamoto in that second hole, and then the third. Well, I would say probably Stone at this point, right? You would, but moving to getting a little ahead of ourselves. But the way Ryan and Robleski pitched, I wouldn't say no to those guys starting a game in the playoffs either. I think who has the hot hand come October is kind of, they have a lot of options, even though it seems like we're pretty thin in starting. But there are, these young guys. There's, Miller and we're not going to see Grove, but we're going to see Miller, Ryan, Knack, all these guys who have pitched well. I don't think any of them have pitched poorly. there's nobody who was like Gavin Stone was last year, was just getting shelled every time he was out there. Knack has pitched well, Ryan has pitched well, Robleski's pitched well, and Stone is sort of kind of a constant all year. And you're right, he is not quite what he was in June and July, in earlier July anyway. But hopefully he can rediscover that a little bit. So there's a lot of options on the table. And the thing that bugged me about last year is that Roberts went with these sort of tried and true pitchers, except for Miller. But he went Lance Lynn and Clayton Kershaw, and those guys just got walloped, and so maybe a little outside of the box thinking, and throw a rookie at them and see what happens.
Yeah, I think a lot can change. We're definitely going to get into some trade deadline talk before this episode's over, but that could change things in terms of who's going to be starting any potential games.
Sure.
Health, like you mentioned, is Yamamoto going to be back? That's a big thing right there. And then do they rely on these young starters if they're still on the team, whether if not they've been optioned or if they've been traded? I'm pretty confident in Robleski starting a game, especially the first 3 innings of a game, or River Ryan, who showed a lot of stuff today against, a very good Houston Astros team. So, I'm more than confident in those guys and letting them take the start at least. And then Kershaw, if he wants to piggyback off someone, or if they I agree with you where maybe they just hold him off as a 3 or 4 starter in a championship series or a World Series. Because in those, say if they do play in a wild card round, or they are in the NLDS, those first, you really only need maybe 3 starters. That's pretty much all you need, especially given what
in a 5-gamer, right, in LDS.
Yeah. So
I mean, starters on your roster practically.
I would say hopefully the Dodgers.
You see Kershaw, if it's a hard fought LDS, you could see Kershaw starting a game 1 of an NLCS.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'll use Glass now in game 5 or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think it really just depends on, how everything lines up between now and then how everything lines up in October. So I know we've been critical, especially on this podcast, saying that the Dodgers shouldn't, rely on Kershaw, especially at his age, and then given, the injury, recovery that he's had on. I just don't think it would be too fair to him, because if he does end up not pitching the best, I mean, he's obviously, him and Roberts are 1 and 2 in terms of scapegoats. So hopefully it just doesn't come to that. Hopefully the team makes moves, and hopefully people get healthy. But before we move on to the Astros series, Steve, I know you were one of the fans that was very vocal in terms of, especially in your writing of those post-game articles, especially in that closing week, 2 weeks of the season. They lose 5 of 6 games on that final road trip, but they opened the second half pretty well. So they swept a very good Boston Red Sox team, and they took 3 of 4 against the San Francisco Giants. Did you see a lot, with those small sample size, especially post All-Star break, for this team to not only get on track, but pitch some good ball games and then come in with a lot of clutch moments? What were your thoughts on just the homestand?
It was one of the better homestands of the year for sure. That other than that one loss to the Giants, and that one could have gone, with a little better bullpen management, that could have gone another way. But that was the last of Johan Ramirez, I believe, was that loss.
Indeed, that was the last of Johan Ramirez, the very favorable Dodger relief pitcher.
Yeah, so even that could have been a win, because it was 2-1 in the 8th or something like that, or was it the 7th that blow up happened?
Yeah, it was really close. Yep.
Yeah, they were just down 2-1. So all of the games on the homestand were winnable games, and we won, all but one. So you have to put that as a positive sign, especially after that horrific. I mean, has there been a worse road trip than that Detroit-Philadelphia combination?
Not in recent memory I can think of. It was very depressing. So
yeah, I mean, they won the one game in Detroit, and then that I mean, that game in Detroit was only matched by Saturday's game in Houston, I guess. There for
Yeah, it was
uh,
bad. I feel like that last closing road trip, I feel like we saw a defeated team. We saw a team that, wasn't hitting, wasn't pitching deep into ball games, and their bullpen wasn't holding on to any sort of lead that they had. Complete 180. I think this team definitely needed a reset for the
yeah.
All-Star break. Come in, they play 7 straight games at home. You got the Red Sox, you got the Giants, two teams that were playing relatively well, especially the Red
Those are two
Sox.
decent teams that they kind of knocked around a bit. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was good to see.
Yeah, so they, like I said, they win the series in Boston with against Boston, and they win the series against the Giants. Um, let's get in straight to this series right now. What they just wrapped up on play on Sunday, and that is taking going to Houston in a stadium that a lot of players, including Clayton Kershaw, had some interesting comments, just not being, comfortable or like playing in Houston, especially with all the scandal stuff from, years past. But let's get into today, 2024. These two teams, the Houston Astros, they've pretty much overcame almost being last place. They were neck and neck with the Athletics in terms of last place, I believe, in like May, early
Right.
May, and now they're actually first place in the American
Right.
League
Yeah. I mean, a
West.
lot of that is helped by the Rangers and the Mariners not being able to really get any kind of run going. So I mean, they have made up a lot of ground, but in fairness, they didn't have that much ground to make up because of the people they were chasing were not doing that great. Um, However, having said that, you gotta hand it to the Astros because it seemed like a lost season about middle of May, and they were like 10 games out or 12 games out or something like that. And
Yeah,
I think I read somewhere that they made up the most ground in the shortest amount of time. I think they made up 10 games in 20 days or something like that,
yeah,
which is just ridiculous.
yeah.
Thank you Mariners, thank you Rangers for helping us out of that. But I mean, they did a lot of it on their own, right? They won a lot of games. They sweep the Orioles, I think, and they were just pounding on people. So they're obviously a team that is not ready to give up its throne yet.
Yeah, they're the best team in my mind in the American League, and I know you can say, the Orioles, they have the talent, the Yankees, they've made moves, but when you make 7 straight, ALCSs, I mean, there's really no argument until you're proved
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. Somebody's got to knock them off the top.
And I know the Rangers in their division won the World Series, but they haven't played the best baseball this year. The Seattle Mariners, who held first place for most of the season, they kind of been on a free fall. Like you said, they've made up 10 games in 20 days, and now they're starting to build upon that lead that they've taken back. So coming into this series, you're pretty much getting the two best teams in my mind since 2017. Both these teams have been to constant. They've each made the playoffs every single year. Bunch of World Series appearances between the both of them, a couple World Series championships thrown in there as well. They come in together. I'm looking at the starting rotation that the Dodgers are sending out there. I'm thinking it's not looking too well. You got Gavin Stone and then 2 rookies against one of the better offenses in the league. I didn't really know what to expect, and then Gavin Stone in that first game, he kind of gets hit around a little bit, gives up, I believe, four or 5 runs. Robleski goes game 2. He's looking awesome. And then River Ryan today, he's looking really good. But in that game 2 start, Robleski gets removed from the game after giving up a leadoff double, I believe, in the 6th or the 5th inning. I think it was the 6th inning. But it ended up the bullpen that's been overworked pretty much since probably June of the season ends up coughing up the lead. The Dodgers can't overcome it. Unfortunately, they almost did that same thing today on Sunday's game where, the bullpen enters the game. One of their best relief pitchers in Alex Vesia immediately coughs up a 2-run home run, making it a lot closer than it should have been. But today the offense was able to, stop the bleeding and at least come out of there with a win. Just looking at this Houston series, it seems like the Dodgers could have, easily taken 2 out of 3 from this team.
Yeah, we'd be having a lot different conversation. I think a lot of it was I mean, that Saturday game left a sour taste in everybody's mouth.
Yep.
So it kind of colors how you look at the whole week. And actually, it was we were within a couple of outs of having an 8-2 first 10 games out of the because obviously the game the game against San Francisco that we gave up all those runs at the end, that was more bullpen stuff, and then this game also was bullpen meltdown. So there's been like 4 major bullpen meltdowns in the last 2 weeks, and that's not encouraging. It's
Yeah,
it's a
it's
rough
not the
one.
best. And it kind of goes into, I feel like, what's been the most controversial take from, if you look on Dodgers social media, whether you're looking on X, Facebook, yeah, Reddit, I don't know where you're getting your news and information, but let's just get right into it. Robleski gets removed within 1 out of giving out of his inning, and then River Ryan, same thing today. And, Dave Roberts admitted that it wasn't the best decision to remove Robleski, put in Evan Phillips, who, hasn't looked good since he's been activated off the IL. What is your thoughts on just kind of, I don't know if it's the status of what pitchers are now in baseball, starting pitching in general, the guys that get brought up through our system and other teams as well, where they don't go deep into games. There's a certain hard pitch count placed on these guys where if you're looking to just get 1 out of the inning, I feel like I'm more confident in letting Robleski and River Ryan finish their inning than kind of just going straight to the bullpen, because I feel like as a baseball player, I feel like once that starter who's cruising comes out, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go attack their bullpen. And the Dodgers and their fans should know exactly what that feels, because the Tampa Bay Rays did that to them in the 2020 World Series. And I feel like that's one thing that we should look at, because it almost bit Dave Roberts in the ass in back-to-back days where Robleski, he's he looks very frustrated. I felt really bad for him because Evan Phillips goes into the game, coughs up the lead, coughs up a couple runs, and then it almost happened again with River Ryan today, who fortunately for him, he did get his first big league win today. But what are your thoughts on just everything, especially with that decision? Did you agree with the decision? Are you agreeing with the way the pitchers are in the game today? Like, what are all your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I didn't agree with either decision. I thought both of them had earned the right to try to work out of the jam, especially Ryan today. I mean, I think with Robleski, I mean, it blew up in Roberts' face, but you kind of see there was men in first and third, and they wanted a righty righty matchup, and and so they took Robleski out and had Phillips come in, and didn't work. But you see the argument for it. Um, Taking out Ryan and bringing in a lefty to face a righty, it, I don't know what that was about. That just didn't make any sense at all, especially since he'd just gotten out Bregman and who else did he get out in that inning? It was
Alvarez.
Bregman and Alvarez, right? He'd gotten both of those big guns out, and I mean, and it was Diaz who hit the home run, right?
Yep.
Today. And Diaz is a decent hitter, but I think River Ryan could handle Diaz if he just handled Bregman and Alvarez. So let the guy finish his business.
Yeah. And I'm, I may be young, but like I still have that old school mentality where I feel like a starter should just finish their job, finish the inning. And but I'm also okay if Dave Roberts needs to go make a move because maybe he sees something, maybe there's fatigue, maybe there's just a matchup base. But in terms of the River Ryan thing today, like you said, he brings in Vesia, lefty pitcher going against a righty hitter. That doesn't really make sense. I know Vesia has been really good this season. He's been able to get both hands of the batter's box, out. So credit to him. But River Ryan, he was cruising all day. I know the counterpoint to this is that it's the most innings that he's pitched in his professional career, not just major league career or minor league career, his entire professional career in terms since he's been drafted. It was, the most pitches he's thrown since then. I think before then his previous professional career high was like 70 or 75 pitches, and he was well over that. And if Roberts was comfortable to let him start the inning that way, to give up a leadoff double, get 2 straight outs and work around it, what was the hiccup with letting him just not finish, an extra
Right. Well,
5 or 6 pitches?
You can even give him one more batter. You don't necessarily have to let him finish the inning, but let him throw to Diaz, see what he does. And if Diaz gets a hit or a home run, you're still ahead. And you bring in Vesia with the bases clean. Or if there's a hit and a 1-run scores, you're still ahead. Like there was literally no downside to letting him finish the inning, because the worst case scenario came in on the next pitch.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that unless he had some sort of, but I could see, okay, we're not going to let him go the third time through the lineup. But then the move would have been at the beginning of the 6th inning, not
That's where it's like I'm confused.
It doesn't make sense.
It seems like at the Dodgers, because I've watched enough Dodgers baseball. I know you've watched enough Dodgers baseball to know that this front office and then the training staff and the coaching staff, they have their way of going about things. And this is just not just a Dodger thing. This is a Major League Baseball thing. Third time through the order, big no-no for a lot of these young pitchers. They don't even usually get, to go out there for that third time of the order. That's usually when you see moves being made. River Ryan today, he started that third time through the order, and he looked fine. He gives up the double, gets out of 2 big outs with 2 big batters on the Astros side, and Bregman and Alvarez. And I just don't really understand it, because if Roberts felt comfortable and everyone was on the same page to let him go out there, what was the reasoning just to pull him out? Because the Dodgers haven't had many quality starts. This is a reason why the bullpen, in my opinion, has been struggling mightily since around mid-June. And it's just because with the injuries of the rotation, this bullpen's being overworked. And I feel like they're getting thrown under the bus because they have to pick up, the pieces. They're coming off a start where, Glasnow didn't go deep into the game. Kershaw only went 4 innings. And then Gavin Stone, I believe, gave them, 5 innings, but he gave up a couple runs and they had to pick up the pieces there. And a lot of people on social media are saying, well, the reason why they removed him from the game was pitch count. Guys, if he throws 90 pitches and then he throws a 97 pitches, I don't think he's going to get Tommy John off of that. Like, if he was already hurt, he was hurt probably way before that, and then it would be revealed after the game. So I just don't understand the move. The Roboleski thing, I was in the same bucket just because you had a bigger lead. There was a couple more runners on base, but there was still 2 outs. I still trust the pitcher.
Yeah, I would have left him in as well, because the pitchers learn from that. And let's say Roboleski gives up a gopher ball. All right, it's 5-3 now. Okay, big deal. Take him out, pat him on the tush, and say thanks. But let him try to get that last out.
Yeah, and I asked Dave Roberts when Bobby Miller was kind of left out there high and dry in Philly. I said, well, what was the reasoning, not pulling him before everything unfolded? And his words to me was well, sometimes you just got to let your starting pitchers get out of their own mess. And I felt like this was a clear indication. You got 2 young starters, each making in their first handful of starts. Let's see what you got. Can they get out of their own mess? These guys are trade chips. If other teams are looking at that, then they can be like, oh, well, these guys can pitch at the big league level. Or you're seeing especially with a game like today, where I think the reason a lot of the decisions and the outcomes get blown out of proportion is because they're against playoff teams. This is a team, if you're going to win the World Series, this is one of the teams that you're going to have to do it against, the Astros in the American League. The Philadelphia Phillies series everything was blown out of proportion because it was the Philadelphia Phillies, a team who, if they're going to get to the NL pennant, that's the team that they're going to kind of have to go through right now. And I think if you can see if River Ryan can get out of trouble, which he's shown today, and if you can see Roboleski can get out of trouble, which he already shown in that second start in that first inning where he gave up a leadoff double and then he got out of that. So I don't know. It just seems like one day or one week they have one answer or one game plan, and then the next day and the next week and the next game they have a whole different other thing, and it confuses Dodger fans like us. It confuses Dodger insiders. It confuses everybody, and then you get everybody just arguing on the social media timeline. So
Yeah,
and Dave Roberts, it seems like I think why it's even more weird today is that he said that he made the wrong decision, or like he alluded to it with
yeah,
Robleski, and then the same exact spot he did it again. So I just don't understand that part at all, because
Yeah,
it really just changed the outcome of the series. Like Steve, they could have taken 2 out of 3 against the Houston Astros, if, in my opinion, if they just let Robleski get that one out. Because
yeah.
even as a pitcher, I feel like
Could have. I think they should have taken it 2 out of 3.
yeah,
That was. I mean, I didn't see the win probability, but probably at that time they were like over 90. I bet.
yeah,
And so they just gave that game away. And I mean, in Robert's defense, I suppose you don't expect that um, Phillips and Hudson
are
and
gonna
Trinan are going to
are
be
gonna get
bad
blown
all
out.
on the
Yeah,
same day. Yeah,
yeah,
so it was like because I mean Hudson, for all we rag on Phillips, Hudson did not look good in that 8th inning at all, and Trinan looked amazing, and then he threw 2 pitches and the game was over. So it was like that strikeout of Altuve was like completely overmatched. That's like vintage Blake Trinan, and then he just hung something to Bregman, and then that's game set match.
yeah. I mean, that's just baseball. That's just sports. One decision, one can just kind of change the whole series, and that's kind of how that game 2 went. You could have taken 2 out of 3 in Houston. Now you're lucky that you got away with at least one win. The Dodgers have still been playing good baseball since the All-Star break. They got a lot of things going on right now. Obviously, we know the whole thing with Freddie Freeman and his family, and that's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for the Dodgers because he's not going to be in the lineup for the foreseeable future. They're already missing Mookie Betts. They're already missing Max Muncy. Guys, the lineup that they put together these last 2 days, the fact that I did not pinpoint them scoring 6 runs in back-to-back days.
Yeah,
That's kind of just, I guess, good character. And before you
yeah,
even
yeah.
move on to the
Gavin
trades,
Biggio, huh? I guess home cooking.
yeah, his dad must have gave him pointers about the stadium or something. So he's been doing good. But another name I want to kind of highlight just before we move on to trade talk and everything, Gavin Lux. I feel like
Oh,
a lot of people were kind of, I'll admit it, I was fully on board, and then until I wasn't, and now I'm starting to get back on the train. I hope it's not too late. But he's been hitting extremely well all of July. What are your thoughts on Lux? Did you always think he had this in him? Were you expecting some type of outbreak, and do you think he can sustain it?
well, I would be lying if I thought I expected it, but I did think he had it in him. Um, that when you miss a whole year, it's going to take a while to find your stroke again, right? And he had played so well in, I guess it was 22. After, remember he went down to the minors for a little while,
Yep.
and he worked on some things, and he came back up from Oklahoma City, and he was just like a house of fire. And and so there's a certain streakiness to Gavin Lux for sure. But I mean, when that guy starts to stroke, you can say, oh yeah, this is the guy who won, minor league player of the year. It's I don't think it's too late to get back on the train. I mean, I'd like to see it happen a little more, but we are in like 2 or 3 weeks into this. The good Gavin.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, his. Let's see. I mean, like he's like in. Let me give you his stats in the last 30 days. Let's see. Last 30 days. Okay, Gavin Lux. 290, 380 OPB, 522 slug, and 902 OPS.
Yeah. He is
I mean,
really
that's a
turning it
month.
around.
That's a month that
Yeah.
he's done that.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of factors. The reason why I think confidence is one. I feel like if you're a player, if you've played sports, you know that a lot of this stuff is mental. And I feel like if he has his swagger back or his just mental space is cleared, that's one. Two, he's actually been a really good defender at second base. I know there was a lot of
Mhm.
things about him having the yips at shortstop. He's been one of the best defenders at second base this season, so that's another plus for his game right there.
Mhm.
He's actually being more aggressive. He is attacking, that first and second pitch because, at the end of the day, I would say probably more than 60-70% of your first pitch in baseball are probably strikes, and he's capitalizing on that. And then you look at a game like today, the Astros picked up on it, and he ended up getting, I believe, 2 walks. So I feel like it's him making adjustment, the league making the
Yeah,
adjustment
I
to
think he
him,
had
and then him
three
making the
walks
adjustment
today.
right back. So
He had
um,
three walks, a home run, and so he was on base 4 times today.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, we're certainly seeing trending up with Gavin Lux, and if you can get that, and really, it's been pretty decent in the 6 through 9 range. Everybody has been harping on that all season, but really, since the All Star break, 6 to 9 have been doing okay.
yeah.
They really have.
Yeah. I think they've been just getting on base. They've been doing what they were supposed to do, whether it's getting on base via a walk, even a bloop single, I'll take it because then you're setting up you're setting up the order to roll over and get back to the top and let your big dogs take care of business. And Gavin Lux, the other day was batting third, so that shows how much confidence, given all the stuff that's happening with the Dodgers right now in terms of injuries and leave and all that.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's probably their third best hitter right now.
Yeah,
After,
it's
I mean,
that shows you how a season can
Will
end
Smith
up right
is
now.
slumping, and so you got to say after Shohei and Teoscar right now, he's the third best option on the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would like to put more faith. I like to put more stock into it once I see it for a longer time. He's been doing it for about 2 to 3 weeks now. So this entire month of July, he's been doing really well. But I want to see him do it in August. I want to see him do it once Mookie Betts is added back to the lineup and he starts sliding down the order. I want to see him do it maybe for the rest of the season before I say yes, this is the type of player that we need. And if he can be that type of a player in October, that's a huge boost to the Dodgers offense that didn't really have him in the first half of the season. And if he's going to give them this in the second half, really opens the door to a lot of options, especially if they say they want to move him back to short, if they want to platoon him with Mookie Betts at second base, it's really up to them. It's going to get real interesting in the next couple days, especially with the deadline and when people start coming back from injuries. And it seems like Mookie Betts is going to be coming back sooner rather than later in the month of August. So
Yeah, he's taking some swings now, I believe. So
yeah, so he's on his way back. Matt Muncy's still kind of in purgatory right now with his oblique injury.
yeah,
Freddie
those
Freeman,
are nasty injuries.
hopefully everything with Freddie Freeman and his family, turns out fine, and we get him back in the lineup soon. And then in terms of the bullpen, Ryan Brazier and Bruce Dark-Gratterall, they've been throwing some sessions in AAA Oklahoma City, and they should be back up before the end of August if everything goes according to plan. So we are getting some reinforcements, especially at a time that they are much needed. But at the end of the day, once this episode's posted, Steve, the MLB trade deadline we are on the eve of it. It'll be on July 30th this year. Dodgers haven't really made any moves. I've seen them linked to a lot of names. We've seen them rumored for a lot of names this entire season, especially the past month and a couple weeks. A lot of teams are making moves right now, and the Dodgers are not among those teams. What are your thoughts on kind of what the Dodgers do need to do this deadline? And do you think it's kind of clock's winding down here and it may be too late?
I don't know about too late, but as Yogi Berra says, it gets late early around here. Um, it's I was thinking that they were going to be blockbusters for the Dodgers this year. Now at this point, and seeing what other teams are asking for, they're like what the Padres had to give up for this relief pitcher that they just picked up. What Adams is his name, I think. they had to give up 3 of their top 12 prospects to get one relief pitcher.
Yep.
That's a hefty price.
Crazy. Yeah.
That's a hefty price. And who are they going to say is tradable? I wouldn't. I mean, if they're going to trade for some big dog like a Scooble, but I don't know. I think Scooble is a lot of wish casting. I think people like the idea of Scooble more than the reality is going to really come through. I don't think Scooble's going anywhere, to be honest, and I don't think Crochet is going anywhere.
Looking that way, yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, with it, I thought I was big on Crochet, and in our preview article a couple of weeks ago, I said, yeah, please, let's get Crochet. But now with these sort of demands, I'm not going to pitch in October unless I get an extension. It's like, wait a minute, it's like, who's calling the dance here? If the reason we're trading for you is because we need you in October, buddy. So if you're not going to pitch in October, then forget it. Yeah. So, but I don't know. Maybe that's just he wants to muscle an extension out of him right away. But that's why I think John Morosi was saying that the Dodgers are really the only team that can pull that off and give him that extension. But I don't know if I would do it. To be honest,
yeah, it's a very. So we had Bob Nightingale on, for our most recent live, and we asked him this question too. We said, "Is there much stock to put into it?" And he said, and for other beat reporters stated the same thing. It makes sense from his standpoint. He's in his career high in innings. He's already had Tommy John surgery once. If he's going to pitch in the postseason as a starter, he's pretty much blown through the most innings he's pitched in his entire career. I believe he's on pace for 120, 130 innings. You add on the postseason innings, say they get to the World Series, his arm may be holding by a thread right now. So he's trying to save his own, personal career. He's trying to save his own, get the most guaranteed money he can at the time. In terms of what the contract would look like, I've went back and forth on social media. He still has two years of arbitration left. It would, in my opinion, the extension that he would receive if given would be like a 3-year deal with a lot of player incentives. You got to hit this milestone to get this much money. You got to hit this milestone to get that much money, and then just buy out his arbitration years. And then after that, he can have a player option where he can just go and say, hey, my arm's fine. Let me go test out free agency, because the Dodgers necessarily, I don't think the Dodgers should be pressing for guys that are pitchers that are under multiple years of control, because if you're going to have Ohtani rejoin the rotation next year, if Kershaw's going to opt into his player option, and then you have Gavin Stone already, Yamamoto under contract, and they're already pretty much like 100% or I'll say 99% going to go after Roki Sasaki as the next arm to rejoin that rotation. Why do you really want to go all in? Why do you want
somebody that you're going to hold on to for 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. So, but the thing is that despite everything that he stated, or his team stated for him, saying that he wants the extension, won't pitch in October, and won't pitch in the bullpen, Dodgers, according to Bob Nightingale, even as today on Sunday, Dodgers are still coveting him. And it's just a matter of fact if the Dodgers and the White Sox can line up on a deal, because I know that's a big thing that we mentioned on the live. A lot of people brought this up, is that just because the Dodgers put together a good package doesn't mean the White Sox are going to agree to that package. They may either want more, or they just may not even want to deal with the Dodgers altogether. There's a lot of stuff that comes together with trades. In terms of and I'm curious to see what you think is like the true needs of the team. In terms of what I'm thinking, I think they need a center fielder. James Outman just hasn't been able to hit this year. If he could, he'd be awesome, because he's defensive-wise, he's the best center fielder the team has right now. I don't think Andy Pages is going to be cut out to play center field full-time, and he's kind of been going through his slump as well. I look at the bullpen. I think it needs at least one big name to kind of help, at the back end, whether that's a Tanner Scott, a Kenley Jansen, if he's available. I think they kind of need a bona fide closer. Like I said, Steve, I'm thinking old school right now. I think they need a definite closer to, close out these games. And then starting pitching. I think that's the big thing. I think the offense, they can piece it together, but I just think they definitely need a starting pitcher right now just because of given all the injuries.
Now, how would you rank it priority? Would
I'd
you
probably
put
go.
starter, bullpen, bat, or bat, starter, bullpen? What would
I would
you?
probably go starter and then outfielder and then bullpen, just because I think they have enough pitchers in the organization to kind of piece together a bullpen. Very like they've done it year in and year out. They don't need to have a traditional closer. I just think it would be nice. Starting pitching is the big thing. I think they need a starter. If it's not going to be Crochet, they need to get a rental like Jack Flaherty. I feel like the writing's on the wall. Just bring the LA native home and let him pitch the
I
rest of
mean,
the season
Flaherty's had a
here.
good year. That would be nice.
And I'm
Um,
not even saying they need an
Fetty,
ace.
maybe Fetty. I don't know if
Fetty's another
you're
option.
interested in Eric Fetty or not.
Yeah,
That's another possibility. Um, who else are we missing? I mean, I was getting all excited about Mason Miller, but then he went
and he
and
punched a wall or
banged
something.
the table or
Yeah.
something like that. Now I'm thinking, oh man, yeah,
It's
either he
there's
wants to
options.
stay at
That's the
Oakland
thing.
or he's just an
Yeah.
idiot.
I don't know. There's a lot going on in Oakland right now. The Dodgers were, according to, I believe fan-sided Robert Murray, he said that the Dodgers had a lot of interest, but the asking price was egregious, according to a source. I don't think he was ever going to get traded. I don't think the Dodgers really wanted to blow up the farm, as
No,
they say, for, reliever with 6 years of control with a past injury history. However, I still think they need to kind of be willing to overpay them more than what they're comfortable with, because we've stated it year in and year out, or day in day out, week after week on our live streams, on our articles. I've written it. You only get Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani in their primes once, and not any other franchise can really say that they've had 3 MVPs in their prime, batting back to back to back in their quest to win a World Series. And you're going to inevitably get all 3 of those back in the lineup. You got to go all in. I don't know if a trade's going to line up. I don't know if, because we're seeing a lot of guys that they've been linked to kind of fall off the board. Randy Arozarena was the big one that was linked heavily with the Dodgers. Jesse Winker was an option that I heard mentioned a few times.
yeah.
He got traded. Carlos Estevez, I know he was an Angel, but the Dodgers apparently were very heavily interested on him before the Phillies swooped him up off the market. Jazz Chisholm was, an unorthodox name that was mentioned by, Robbie Hyde a couple of streams ago. Zach Eflin's starting pitching option, no longer available. Then you got teams like the Rangers, who kind of had a good week since the All-Star break, and they've now kind of switched gears, and they are going to be quote-unquote buyers or just stand pat altogether because they're approaching that wild card spot. So I feel like, and Andrew Freeman said in an interview with Bill Plunkett that if he's not making, the big move, they don't really see a benefit of making those marginal moves like they've had in years past. They would rather just see what they got with the starters they have right now. So that kind of begs the question, Steve, before we end the episode. With the day and a couple hours left of the deadline, until the deadline, do you realistically even see them doing much else, if anything at all?
Given the state of play right now, I'm thinking maybe a decent relief pitcher and like a Flaherty or a Fetty. I don't think they're going to get like a marquee. Flaherty is, I mean, he has marquee pedigree, but his best days are kind of behind him. But I could see Flaherty and like a mid-level reliever. I know everybody was excited about Luis Robert, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It seems like the White Sox, the people who should be selling left and right, are holding onto their pieces for dear life. They want to, obviously they're trying to jack up the price to milk as much out of this horrible season as they can. Because I don't think the White Sox have traded anybody yet, right? And
Yeah. Nope. They haven't traded anybody. They still have Tommy Pham. They still have Luis Robert Jr. They still have Garrett Crochet, Eric Fetty, like all these names that you mentioned that should be on the trade block. But do we know if they are going to be traded? I feel like Fam's a no-brainer. And I think I agree with you. I think the Dodgers would get a starter. Doesn't Is it going to be Flaherty? I'm not sure. He seems like the most logical option that for the reasons I mentioned earlier. He's a free agent next year. They just need him for the next couple months. No money tied to him whatsoever for the after this season. So why not just get that rental guy? In terms of what else is left on the market, it just seems like it's not something that is going to match up with LA like a Crochet, where it doesn't seem like it's working out right now, and it just doesn't seem like it'll be a big enough move to make Freeman make that choice and would rather just stay in house. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. That's
So,
what I know.
so if we say like a Scherzer Turner deal is a 10 at blockbuster wise, I'm thinking the Dodgers come in about 4 is kind of where I think there'll be some moves, but they're not going to be, oh, I can't wait to get to the stadium and see this guy kind of moves.
Yeah. I'll give it like a 4 or 3. It's getting less and less by the, I would say, hour. Right now, as we're recording, and I know it was mentioned earlier by Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic and Ken Rosenthal. Their Dodgers apparently are heavily interested in Tommy Edman from the St. Louis Cardinals, utility middle infielder and outfielder. Definitely fits the mold for the Dodgers. However, big thing, Steve, is that he's still recovering from wrist surgery, and he had a setback for said wrist. So he's still on the IL. He hasn't even made an appearance this season yet. I don't think if that was the Dodgers move that they made by the time we end this recording, I don't think the social media accounts would be very happy and all our fans. So I don't think they should. I don't think they should go staying with that move. It would fit.
I mean, we've had enough of those kind of broken pieces that we were hoping to nurse back to health, and they haven't really panned out, aka Danny Duffy, right?
Yeah. I don't think we should be taking flyers on guys that are still on the injured list, but hey, if they want to get Tommy Edman and a Jack Flaherty, maybe I'm thinking of something a little bit different. I don't think they're going to do much. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for them to, to go all in and get, like a Flaherty, get a bat from somewhere, try to pull off a Crochet deal. I still think, despite all the baggage that everybody is coming after him for in terms of the contract negotiations and, the pitch, the amount of innings that he's pitched this season, still think he would be perfect for this team. And I think he would be the perfect option, lefty, to kind of, if you look at his stuff, guys, there's a reason why so many teams are interested in him. Does it happen? I don't know. It seems like with everything that he's been talking about, it seems like more of an off-season move, if anything. But is there anything else you want to wrap up before we wrap up this episode, Steve?
Well, certainly we got to keep an eye in the rearview mirror with San Diego. I mean, that's our next stop. And San Diego has been playing very good baseball lately. And
yes, they have.
And AJ Preller is not going to be sitting on his haunches. He's
on the hot seat, so he's going to try to go all in and get that wild card berth. And
yeah.
I don't think the division's in their cards, because even though they've been playing extremely hot baseball, they're still, I believe, 7 back or 6.5 back in the division. But we've seen them make a wild card round before and end up taking care of the Dodgers in the division series. So I agree with that.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on San Diego. It'll be an interesting series to see Glasnow and Kershaw against the Padres, because Padres lineup is hitting, and this will be a good test for these two pitchers to see how they navigate. I mean, Kershaw's always had pretty good luck against San Diego, so we'll see. And I this might be the first start or close to it for Tyler Glasnow against the Padres. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting week. They have an off day on Monday, so Andrew Freeman, Dodgers brass, they have a lot of
no excuses
to think about. They have full.
They just sit in a small room and think about things. Think about winning a championship.
Yeah, and when they begin play on Tuesday night in San Diego, I believe, against the Padres, it'll be hopefully a different looking team with some more players and maybe some less players that were traded away to get said players. But that'll be remain to be seen until then. So it'll be an interesting,
All
48,
right. Well,
24
fingers will be
hours.
crossed, and hopefully we'll be talking about the great deadline that they had this time next week.
Alrighty, and that'll about do it for this episode of the Bleed Lows podcast, this weekly rewind edition. Be sure to subscribe and follow the page and DodgersBeat.com and all the socials. We will be most likely going live at the end of the trade deadline, kind of talking about the hopefully good trade news that the Dodgers came upon. So be sure to look forward to that, and then whatever else we got in store for the week. But that'll be it. Steve, thanks for coming on again, and be sure to have everyone follow your work there, and we'll see you for the next time.
Right. And check us out on DodgersBeat.com.
This episode has been brought to you by BetOnline. The game starts here.